Greetings. So in the previous theory, we talked about how Furina's name can connect to some other goddesses, and from there we come up with some ideas connecting the dots as to what does her name represents, and eventually go into her character lore design. So that theory turns out to be some of them went right, some of them went wrong. Some even go off course and basically went off Kavad, so that's pretty severe, and that is why we are going to do some corrections to straighten our path back on track. So let's just start with the first thing. We talk about how her name drew some inspiration from Lavana, the goddess of thieves, underworld, and cheats, and they did it. They did actually drew some connection with her, and one of the unique aspects about Lavana was how the people that seeks her blessing tends to wish that their action won't affect their reputation for piety and honesty, but instead the writer chose a more direct approach. So instead of other factors, it's just Furina's reputation as the Hydro Archon. So that's pretty good. Then since they're gonna connect her with Lavana, the three other aspects is gonna be an important attribute towards crafting Furina's character, and they did actually try to connect these three elements, and I got to say, I'm glad to be wrong. Their version is much better. So the first thing that we did got right, at least, was how she is connected to the underworld. That is due to her design. We do see that she has heterochromia. One side of them is darker, and because of this mythology aspect connection, we also come into the conclusion that might mean she has some association with the abyss, or with that connected to the primordial water. And it turns out to be true. Since Ajira used the primordial water to help the Oceanid turn into human, then they still retain some of that primordial water in their blood, so that reflects pretty well. But when it comes to the other part, then oh boy, there's a lot of things to correct. So first we talk about her identity as a thief. Now we did get part of it that did went well, which is how she steal the intermedium that was intended for the people to use for their energy uses, but was instead used to collect a huge lumps of energy to save Fontaine. And it's worth noting, it does seems to highlight what an Archon can do, like no matter how long they make their preparation prior to the event. Focalors did stack up like 500 years worth of intermedium, and all that was to shatter the divine seeds, the Hydro Archon seeds. And to that, it is still kept about the Archon level feats, so it does seems to give us a heads up what might Sarisa be planning. She is trying to gather all different infinity stones, chess piece for now, and I'm not sure if she's able to go beyond what an Archon can do, but with all the elements, she might do something a little bit more extraordinary. Then the other part is where things gone off track. I thought Focalors would steal the item that the Oceanid need to perform helix split so that they can reproduce further, as evident from the research note that we found in the cave. But then it turns out to be a bit too imaginative. Focalors didn't steal the item, it just placed in the open so that Fontainian can receive this effect whenever they want, and I didn't think of that. So lesson learned, it's much more easier to be direct. Perhaps it's more accurate to say that Focalors did make it difficult for the Oceanid to have access to these resources to further reproduce. But this only affects those Oceanid that still retain their Oceanid form, isn't it? I'm not too sure. Why are they still pissed about Focalors? Is it because of the inability to further reproduce? Maybe just as simple as the water taste sucks, I guess. I think they just don't like that Focalors is planning to give out the divine seed. We did see, even though Zhongli retired, Venti retired, well, just having fun, and Raiden Shogun gave out the Gnosis, but all of them unwilling to give out their seeds no matter what. They still want to use their seeds for powers or something. So for Focalors willing to destroy that, it's probably one of the reasons why the Oceanid dislike her, I guess. So that's part of the thief attribute to her. When it comes to cheats aspect, I think I didn't have the theory for that in the previous video, so I did went with a correct theory, which didn't went well, and it's basically about assuming that Focalors was the original Hydro Archon, while Egeria isn't, simply because of some mythology connections as well as an article in-game, and I suppose the research paper is bogus. And simply because she is not the leader, I thought maybe someone else is. So first thing to correct would be, what did Furina did cheat? I think it's obvious that most of us has known that she managed to make everyone believing in her role as the Hydro Archon. A selfless performance at the price of her sanity, and on the flip side, Furina isn't the only one that does the cheat pretty well. Focalors also contributed to this by cheating Furina from the truth. Wait, I suppose the main thing that Focalors cheated was Nouvelette's tears. She did tease him about him crying all the time, making rains drop across Fontaine, flooding the whole place possibly. Essentially, that's what she cheated Nouvelette into this position as a Udex, so that he can develop healings for humans. There might be more, but I can't think of any at the moment. So with that, let's go talk about the Kamine inspiration that we severely went off track. I think the writer may have thought that it might be a great idea to pass the past commander role in this group and twist it into attributes making up Egeria. Since commander role is going to be merged with Egeria, what's left for us is the current day role for Furina. And previously, I didn't elaborate further, as the current day was once known as a single entity, so I thought leaving as such would be fine enough for the discussion, but it seems like the writer chose this aspect for Furina for the perfect reason. You see, the current day used to be a single entity. Over time, they were actually considered as two different goddesses. Antavota, the goddess of future, and Postvota, the goddess of the past. And I suppose you can already draw some conclusion how this is a perfect match with Furina. But I think it's worth talking about the most interesting aspect about this past or future aspect, and that is how both Focalors and Furina can have some elements of past or future. Before Furina's freedom, she had been living based around a role she had been stuck with, and basically that's like living in the past with no progression into the future. While Focalors did plan for the future in our current event, Furina was the only one that was left with a proper future. So I think the twist is pretty good into this aspect. This is just what we think could be associated with Furina's name alone, based on the updated information and information we gathered beyond the game. Otherwise, take care and I will see you next time.
神道の権限直律令直はっお披露目